Hello, welcome to Fo's Journey Across the Bridge. How are you guys doing? It's been a long, very long time. Hope you guys are doing well. So today I thought I would have lunch with you guys and have a conversation, have some coffee, got my F going on. So let's do 3 conscious breaths before we go anywhere. 3 conscious breaths. Three conscious deep breath. Center ourselves. Hello. So, this is a meal that my babies and I made. We have some rice here with peas and potato, cooked 80%, and then the remainder of the time it was placed in the oven to finish cooking. Here is it's a black bean sauce with some peppers, red peppers. We have eggplant. Is it eggplant? We have eggplant in there. And some spring onion and some great flavor. The rice is well seasoned, and so is the sauce. Okay, so we're gonna have lunch together. And I have not told you, so how will you know? Before we get started, I just want to share some stuff with you guys. So I have started a catering business. It's Fine Herbs Catering. On Instagram, you will find us under Fine Herbs Catering. It's all plant-based. And even though 85% of the time I eat just vegetables and fruits, some grains and seeds and nuts and stuff like that, every now and then I'll have some amazing fried fish, some lamb. I have not limited myself yet to not eating completely animal, removing animal products or animal-based food from my diet. But I'm sure I will again, because I had done it before for like 2 years, and previous to that, when I was like a teen, I did it for 2 weeks. So we'll see where it goes. So check us out on Instagram under Fine Herbs Catering. Okay, yay, now we can talk. So my hair is tied up. So I have braids, so you'll get to see it in a second. Perfect way to tie your hair up when you're cooking, so your hair doesn't smell like food, have it up there. Also, if you have braids and you need to take a shower, you need to get the hair off your neck and off your face, so it doesn't get wet. But at the same time, also makes it so that it's not everywhere. So I will give you guys a big reveal of that. So much stuff before we get to it. So here is my braids that I have done myself. Your girl knows how to braid my own hair. Okay, well, anyways, here we go. So I've been meaning to come and talk to you guys. I will eat and make sure my food does not get cold. Yum, 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 yum. So, for those chefs out there, so important, as you guys all know, it's so important to have, helpers in the kitchen, have, those that are cutting the vegetables and preparing all the stuff that you need to cook the meal, and also having a sous chef, because, of course, you want to make sure, your household knows how to feed themselves. So you give them those skills, you pass down those tools. So a sous chef can step in if you have to go and do something, or also be like, cooking the sauce per se, so you have two people cooking at the same time, allowing things to go faster, and then having another person, or the same person, or many people, as many helpers as you can get, like I do. I have many helpers in the kitchen, and so help you just cut up your potatoes, peel them, everything, onions, garlic, you have the glasses going on for the onions and everything. So what have I been meaning to talk to you guys about? So this subject has come up for me, all part of those Journey Across the Bridge on this healing series, right? Healing myself, returning to the core of who I am, doing the work, and I'm hoping any of the tools that I share here, or even the process that I'm using, or the process that's manifesting itself, the process that's evolving, could be a tool for you. And sometimes I'm also in the middle of it, right? Sometimes I'm at the end, sometimes I'm just right at the beginning of like having this realization of, oh, this is something that is coming up for healing, or this is something that needs addressing. And so here on Phil's Journey Across the Bridge, I'm sharing with you guys my experience, and I am allowing you to see what it's like on this healing journey. So welcome to the healing series. The subject that I'm going to talk about is safety. Safety. So let's make sure my coffee doesn't get cold. Instant coffee, a little bit of sugar. Shouldn't be consuming sugar, well aware. Today I just wanted some sugar, which probably means I need some kind of vitamin. We're gonna allow it today. Safety. So in the last few weeks, I had experienced very highs and lows, emotions of like not feeling completely, what's the word? Not having certainty. And that certainty was like constant, leading me to feel like so much was out of my control. And, as a conscious being, we understand that whenever you are experiencing that, you have to surrender, because it's not your battle. It's probably, God's responsibility. And so you're trying to control things out of your control, which is going to drive you mad because you'll get frustrated and so on. So there, not having so much certainty in my life, and then that triggering past fears around safety. So when I was a little girl, I've talked about this, where I had experienced traumatic events. And those traumatic events were not only experiences that I had experienced, that my being has experienced, but also experiences that had happened to others in my environment, others in, in my community that I was exposed to, because there's secondhand trauma as well, right? When you see something happening to someone, that can also affect you. So it was just coming up, and the sense of like, because when I was a kid, I didn't, majority of the time, I didn't feel safe. I felt at any minute I could be attacked. At any minute, something could come out of somewhere. Like the boogeyman, the monster was always there in the back of my mind, or in the front of my mind. It was always just present. And I constantly watched my back. Constantly. And I never allowed myself to sit still for a very long time, which was something I had to heal as well. Needing to constantly get up and do something, or go somewhere, or just not, because I had this, I had the escaping of emotionally escaping or mentally escaping, right? I knew how to do that, but at some point that wasn't enough, so I would physically escape. I would not stay in that environment, because I felt like if I stay here too long, I could be attacked. So imagine that weight of like responsibility for a kid to be like constantly watching your back and not sure if anyone else is going to watch your back. So as I'm talking about it now, I'm realizing like, I don't know why as a kid I never spoke up and said to my parents, like, I don't feel safe, or I'm scared, or I don't, I don't want to sit in this place for too long. I never really expressed it to anyone. I never expressed it to anyone as a kid. No one. And so, and I just carried the responsibility. So let's eat. I like my food nice and warm. Don't like it cold. And it's not polite to eat with your mouth, to talk with your mouth full. So I'll try to eat in between. So I had put this little black peppercorn, what is it called? Peppercorn, black peppercorn. It's a bit spicy. It gives the food a lot of flavor. But when you find it in your eyes and you don't realize it and you bite into it, it's super spicy. But guess what? Spice is really good for this season. Very good for this season. So much of that responsibility. Getting into my teen years, still, it wasn't, my environment had changed by then. I went from living in one continent to another. And in this continent, the threats, whether real or false, those threats shifted. They were different. And because it became like living in North America, my home wasn't so open to like so much visitors. Back home, having a big home, coming from a large family, we had people coming in and out, whether it was family, whether it was workers, people who work there, maids, chefs, cooks, like chauffeurs, all these people, like security guards, so many people coming in and out of the house. So the environment completely shifted because you live in New York and you live in this apartment, you live with your family, it's just your home. So your home itself becomes much more safer because you don't have all these different people coming in. And then, but then the threats become different because now I remember being outside and then, I think when you carry the energy of having been attacked, it has this vibration. But also when you learn to kind of freeze or you panic, you don't know what to do in those situations, that doesn't escape you no matter what environment you move into, whether you live in one continent or not. If you haven't healed or addressed those trauma responses, it's going to manifest again. It's going to show itself in new settings. And those settings were, just hanging out with certain people, your age groups, but also being from a culture where certain behaviors were not so public, where I was born. And then coming to the US, certain behaviors were more acceptable, but also more done and practiced by a certain younger group of people. So I say someone might try to flirt with you, or someone might try to ask you out or stuff like that. Coming from like an Islamic background, there isn't such thing of if someone was flirting with you and whether you're participating or not, you could easily get in big trouble. So by your parents, by people in the community. So just that type of setting was already different. So, coming to North America, being a bit older, being exposed to different types of threats, and then now realizing, okay, I gotta watch my back in this way. So that responsibility of watching your back just kind of accumulates, doesn't go away. Of course, it was different and it became a little bit less, but it was still there. And again, never communicated that I didn't feel safe or that I needed to I needed to be reassured. So again, we're talking about safety. And then, of course, there was a secondary traumatic event that had happened when I was back home in Africa. And that was really, for me, it was shocking. You know, it was a family friend that went and attacked another family friend, or something like that. And it was like with a weapon and all of that. And it was just so scary to know that within an instant that could happen. It was just like we just heard, oh my God, this thing just happened. And then of course you have this out of body experience where like you're panicking inside, you're panicking externally, you're just panicking. And also people in your house are like, what happened? Like these are two people that knew each other. How come this is happening? So that was the secondary trauma. Of course, I had experienced firsthand trauma before that, during that, after that. So it was like, it was insane. It was like just being exposed to so much uncertainty and not being safe. Exposed to like, I want to say danger, because you never know which way it's gonna go. And so to bring it back to the US, you know, we're living in the US, and then I'm not sure which one came first. My older brother was defending someone who was being hit or beaten or attacked by a male. And then he was defending this female, and this male decides to stab him. And he comes home and he's like, all he says is, he announces like, you know, this happened to me. I don't think I can continue eating while talking about this, so I have to eat this a bit later. I'll keep my coffee. So let's just talk about this. So that was like, I think that happened second. Well, I'll go with it. And then it was like, it shook us. It shook. I remember me being so shaken, and I didn't even vocalize how scared I was. I didn't vocalize how terrified I was that this thing had happened to someone so close to me. And, you know, if they were going to be okay, if I was going to be okay, if they were not okay. And it was just such a horrible thing to go through. It really shook us as a household. And he just going to see him and having him in ICU and having tubes and it was like the most horrible thing to see. And I think I was in my early teens. And I'm not even sure how we got over that as a family. I'm not even sure. Like, it still makes me a bit emotional when I talk about it or when I think about it, because I feel like I felt so helpless. Like I couldn't do anything to help him, and I couldn't do anything to help myself, like to help me feel reassured. So yeah, that happened. And then my younger brother gets in a car accident, and he's like also in the ICU. And he was like 3. Oh, I don't know if I'll be able to get through this. So anyways, and he forgot how to walk, he forgot how to speak, and he had to he was like a vibrant kid that was super fast and ran everywhere and whatever. And we lived on a busy one-way street, and just following the other kids on the street, runs into the road. A car was hardly going fast, hits him. And one of the most horrible things was this. Wow. Woo. One of the most horrible things was to go visit him at the hospital and they had him in this crib that looked like a cage, because he would climb out of it at night if they didn't have him in this crib cage. And we would, for some reason, he remembered us, right? And we would go see him. But when we were getting ready to leave, he would cry his heart out. It's so interesting how things come up for healing, right? And this is probably energy and emotions that I had still stuck within me, because I talked about it many times. So he would be crying and screaming, and it would be so heartbreaking to leave him there, but we couldn't take him home because he needed to go through therapy, rehabilitation. He needed to learn how to walk again. He needed to learn how to speak again. So just to go home and have him crying, like, why are we? I hope one day soon I can talk to him about it, because maybe that's also maybe energy that I hope he had released. Because imagine watching your whole family walk out and you're screaming and you want them to take you with them, and they can't. And so that was really heartbreaking for me. And I don't know how we got through that as a family. Anyways, leading to safety, just not feeling safe. Like anything could happen and out of my control. I can't stop things from happening. And this has been a pattern. Not a pattern, but maybe just not feeling safe had become a pattern because of all the different attacks that I personally experienced, and not being able to fully escape it completely, to finally just be safe. And what is safety anyways, right? And so we moved past that. I think when it had happened, when my older brother had experienced, my timeline, I'm not remembering which happened, but then there was a family friend in that neighborhood, because we know how New York is, right? It's like not every area in New York is the safest. It's like a fast-paced environment. And so a family friend in the neighborhood gets attacked and pass away. And at that point, it's like having all this guilt, because it's like, I just talked to this person earlier today, and I didn't really get a chance to clear things up. I didn't really get to be on good terms, or say, it was just like missed opportunities, right? And so from that, we pack up and say, okay, this is not the environment for us. And so these are all different environments. One could say, okay, depends where in New York, maybe that area was not safe. But imagine living in Africa, living in all residential areas, living in a big home, very comfortably, having a large extended family, and all your families are around you. A couple of houses down, 2 blocks down is your grandparents and your aunts and uncles, or you're surrounded, and everyone around are people you grew up with, people that your parents grew up with, and so on. So it's it's not an environment that you expect such a thing, and when friends attack friends, then it's what do you do? How do you then become safe over things that are not worthy or not worth it? So anyways, so we come to Canada, and I have a seizure. I have 2 seizures in one day. Could you imagine having all this overwhelming responsibility of trying to be safe and trying to suppress all these different emotions, all these different trauma, first-hand, second-hand trauma, still just suppressing it. And one day, like, life just spins and your mind spins and you just can't take it anymore. So I'm still leading to trying to get to this better understanding of safety. And so I didn't realize how terrified I was of having kids until, well, I kind of knew from watching videos of a woman in labor, but you still think, okay, you're going to get married, have kids. I'm in labor. I'm terrified that I might pass away and my kid is going to be raised by my family. Terrified, not feeling safe at all, because it's like, what if I can't stay strong past this pain? What if I don't make it through past this pain? And as I have more kids, the fear continued to stay, but I learned to, like, the fear of not being able to keep me safe, keep me alive. And then I learned techniques on how to breathe, how to consciously breathe, how to be present, and so on, so that in labor I'm not just escaping. Because if you learn how to mentally escape, how to emotionally escape due to trauma as a survival response, you can't do that in labor. The pain is so intense that, if you do that, I was just afraid of what would happen, So anyways, you go past that, and then as your kids grow and they're moving about in life, this fear start to, like, come up too. Where are they? What are they doing? Right? It's like that 10 p.m. commercial in the US. Do you know where your kids are? And then you try not to be this helicopter parent. You try not to over prepare, like no sleepovers. You try not to, like, tell them, okay, these are the 10 ways you need to stay safe. Make sure you don't do this. Make sure you don't eat that. Make sure you don't drink this. Make sure you don't. All of these things that some would say is paranoia, but really just stems from, like, a trauma response, not feeling safe. And how, if I couldn't keep me safe as a kid, if I couldn't keep me safe all these other times, how could I possibly keep my kids safe? All right, my coffee too. I'm gonna have to warm it up later because it's tasting more like cold coffee. And unless it's ice cap, we gotta warm it up. For those of you who don't know ice cap, sorry, I had to just insert that in. Here in our part of the world, and for my Tim Hortons, we love our ice cap. I love my ice cap. I was gonna say this should be a vegan one, but I was like, don't get everybody pissed at you. Because I'm like, it does have milk in it, or cream or something. So how do I keep my kids safe? How do I keep my children safe? How do I keep them safe? How do I let them live and experience things and not say, no, I need to know where you're going all the time. Text me, message me. Like, just holding on to them, because it's like, it was triggering all those things, which then, says it's time to really heal it, right? Like, you talk about it, you address it here and there, but it's time to really heal it, because it comes back to surrendering. It comes back to having faith, complete faith in God. Because earlier on, when I had experienced some trauma and some frustration with the trauma, it's like, God, why did you let that happen to me? If you, why didn't you protect me? Why didn't you keep me safe? So every now and then, I may forget that God is the best protector of me, of my children. And so when I do forget that, sorry, I just gotta cover my food. All right. So when I do forget that, I get in this space of, like, I get to worry. Not I get to worry. I start to worry, and it's brought up by all these experiences, right? It's not like I lacked exposure to traumatic events or moments of not being safe. There were many that allowed me to kind of have this awareness, which, I could recall. And so it was really a process of kind of like not teaching codependency, not taking away their ability to problem solve. It's like teaching myself to give them the tools and then to pull back and trust and have faith and surrender into this knowing. Because I know, so I know about God. I know God intimately. I know God very closely. I know God. I invite God to the deepest parts of me. So I can't move and operate as if I am unaware of God's abilities. And so when all this fear around how can I keep my children safe comes up, it's kind of talking myself back into the space of like, you've given them the tools, you've told them they can reach out to you, and God is their bigger protector. So then I get into praying, I get into like, God, protect my kids, keep them safe, watch over them. And I try not to then deny them their right to have experiences that require some risk, right? Because just stepping out of your house, it can be a risk right then and there. And so most recently, something that again triggered these emotions to come a bit more again, and that's the thing, right? Sometimes with your healing, you might have addressed certain emotions, certain issues, but they could be layers to it. They could still be a residue. And so when you least expect it, that's why sometimes when you're triggered, it's not about attacking someone that had that had caused that to be triggered from you. But it's to say to yourself, okay, I'm being triggered, because it could be something, yes, you have addressed it, but it's coming up again. So that means this residue that remains. And so the most recent thing that had come up was someone close to me again was in a situation where, based on the type of group of friends that they kept and so on, they put themselves in harm's way. Not that they put themselves in harm's way, but they exposed themselves. They didn't know it was harmful, but I don't know how to say it in the most loving and truthful way. Maybe the choices they made in terms of acquaintances or friends weren't the best ones, and because of that, they weren't aware of those people's capabilities. Maybe that person or their attacker probably didn't know that they were someone that actually responds that way. But anyhow, it was almost like a deja vu moment. And I'm like, what is this? Why is this happening? Right? And so imagine even just to say, as if when you hang around with the wrong crowd, that's still no reason to be attacked, right? But it's like, it's almost like it's more likely. So if something is more likely, you tend to avoid it and stay away from it. But that's not the point. The point is what it was triggering for me and what it had brought up. So I was finding myself thinking like, and it was so interesting. For a moment, it was almost like I felt like this rush just go to my brain, and it was like I had to tell myself not to lose myself, in the event. And interesting enough, I was one of the adults in this situation. So like I just kept thinking, how much of myself can I offer as support in this situation? And so, you know, when you experience something and you're a kid, you have this idea of like, or there's this understanding or expectation that elders are there and they will like reassure you. And it's not very often that, you know, people come in and check on the kids. How are you guys doing these events? This such an event has happened. Where is everybody at? And I feel like this time around I was able to be present for those that needed it. Like I was able to hold myself enough to be able to be a support. And so I think some of the answers still in terms of like safety, you know, it's like, it's almost like no matter what you do, you're not, you may still be exposed to certain things. And it was just like, it was almost like the turn of events came out of nowhere. It's almost like, so I think that was the trigger of the safety again. It's like these unsafe events, circumstances could come out of nowhere. And so it's like out of your control. And then whenever something's out of your control, you have to catch yourself so that you're not thrown into this like space of being overwhelmed and having panic and feeling stuck. It's almost like allowing yourself to walk through the experience, right? And not get stuck in the experience. So that's what was kind of like triggering this whole thing to come up and allow me to be able to come and talk to you guys about it. For a couple of weeks, even before this most recent event that showed up as an attack, excuse me, I was already like, just, you know, God, how can I keep me safe? How can I keep my kids safe? So it was already like that, those trap emotions were already surfacing and needing to be addressed. And I don't think I sat down and fully addressed it. I kind of just understood like, okay, I'm being triggered, or something is, because whenever there's uncertainty in your life, whether it could be financially or it could be, no matter what are the changes that are happening, safety is going to come up again, right? Because safety is not just, even when you have a shelter over your head, you're under the safety of this shelter, so you're not getting wet or snowed on or whatever that circumstances may be. All those basic needs. But then there's also this need to be safe and secure, like your physical body, you know. And so yeah, that was coming up, and I was like, I need to come and talk to you guys about it, because I find that it's very important when we are healing, and we're healing not just old wounds, but we're healing old emotions, old fears, old, or an emotion or an experience attached to a certain emotion that had originated way, way, way in your past, right? Years ago, but just kept, you know, it kept accumulating, and so it had a root somewhere. So even if you're doing the most recent, or you're doing the one from a couple of years ago, it's like sometimes you gotta go to the root of it and clean it up. So if you're just doing the healing work on the surface, or if you've addressed it and you didn't address it in depth, and if you didn't address all areas of it, then it's like the residue will come up, and it will come up for you to address. And the thing that I always am grateful for is that I'm in a space, I am in a conscious space where I can understand what it is that's being brought up for my awareness. I can take the time to pause and address it, and I can allow myself to walk me through it, right? So then I allow myself to to walk through the process of releasing this final residue that's attached to this thing and this situation, this emotion of feeling safe and needing to feel safe. I also recently was reading a post on Instagram, and this person was talking about how it's not one's responsibility to make someone else feel safe. Like if someone comes into my home, if they come with the expectation that they're going to be safe, then they put in that responsibility on me. They have to understand that their own safety and feeling safe is it's not a responsibility that you can hand off to someone, because you could be in the most safest of environment, but say an earthquake happens, then it had nothing to do with the person or their home, or someone could say, well, these cities have earthquakes, so I'm not going to go live there. And then so there's always something that you can run away from. But what you have to finally do is sit within yourself and finally just sit with the feeling of not feeling safe. And no matter how long that's going to take, for you to finally understand the whole information of what safety is offering you and teaching you. Because if you don't, you're going to limit yourself. If you don't, you're going to limit those that you are responsible for. If you don't, you're going to limit those that you speak to, because there's so many areas where safety, like electricians, like that's not the most safe job, but they have to learn how to do it the right way. And if they don't do that job, we won't have even me recording right now, right? Having the power of electricity. And so I am acknowledging that has come up for me, this feeling of not feeling safe. And I'm going to sit with it. And I look forward to coming back and doing a part 2 of what was my experience with sitting with not feeling safe. Because I think for a while I've been escaping it because I didn't know how to handle it, how to resolve it, how to move past it, right? Not suppress it, because when we're doing our healing, it's not about suppressing our emotions, not suppressing what's coming up to be addressed or what we're experiencing at the moment. It's about allowing it to surface so we can see what it is, so we can accept it, and then we can see what is required in terms of the actions that we need to do, or maybe just in the state of being, that we can then allow it to do what it's meant to offer us, whatever lesson is meant to offer me, to receive that lesson, and then finally that emotion, that energy can be released. I remember when I had consciously decided to sit and be present with my emotion of fear, because fear was like crippling me. It was like taking over my life, and I had become conscious of it, and I said, I'm going to sit with it. And then when I had sat with fear the first time, I had found myself as a young woman sitting somewhere, like the same spot that I was sitting. Like I went to a bench somewhere it was like a bike path, or and it was close to the water, and it was like a beautiful seating area, but it's starting to be like close to, like in the evening, closer to like sunset. And so I just decided to sit there and to be with this feeling that I was feeling, that was intense, that was coming up. And what I had realized was it wasn't fully just fears that I had experienced in this lifetime, but it was like a time travel type of experience where it's almost like I brought this fear from a past life. And then I was sitting there, and it was like this young girl was sitting next to me, and she must have been like 21 or 20, somewhere around there. And it was like, it almost seemed like it was a different timeline. And she was so afraid. And the fact that I got to sit with her allowed me to face that fear. And then from that moment, I kept allowing myself to welcome all these different fears that I was having, so that I could overcome them. And so I feel like this is what safety is requiring of me. And when I go and I consciously sit and I invite safety to make itself known, or not feeling safe to make itself known, then I can understand what is the message, and I can finally understand what is it that needs to be healed and released. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. And I know I went a bit personal into other people's experiences, but the reason I allowed myself to do so is because it was me. I was also exposed to their event, to their circumstances, and I'm basically giving you my view of the experience, my own experience of the event, and hopes to like help you see how maybe a traumatic event that had happened directly to you, or a secondhand traumatic event, and how those events are, how they have affected you. For me, safety was something I strive so much for, and not feeling safe was like such a dominant emotion that was present since I was a kid for a very long time. And I could tell you that right now, even as I'm speaking about it, I can say that there's so much that I am looking forward to exploring about this feeling of feeling unsafe and what it has to offer me, and what it actually looks like on the other side of that. How much more of life am I going to enjoy allowing myself to finally heal and release this huge, huge, huge emotion, like this huge bubble of not feeling safe. So, and then so just looking forward to the other side, but not rushing the sitting with the feeling of feeling unsafe, not rushing that part of the process, because that's beautiful too, and that's close and dear to my heart, because it wants to, that aspect of me, those experiences all want to offer me something. They all want to teach me something about my own power, my own strength, my own faith, right? My own ability to fully lean into life and not just be on the sideline, to fully step into life. And so to see how safety or not feeling safe, that as those emotions, and if it's attached to a certain aspect of me, how much it has gotten me through life, and to very much thank that aspect of me. And when it's time to just release those emotions and finally heal that aspect and let that aspect rest. And one day soon to know the beauty of fully just trusting my divine source, trusting God. Like I said in my previous video, I'm leaning all the way in. I'm leaning forward into my faith. And so from that, and with that, I hope that a new version of me emerges. I am looking forward, and I am grateful. I place my hand on my heart, because I love how when I'm honoring me and I'm speaking from my heart, that I connect to my heart, because I feel how connected I am to my heart, and it allows me to be fully present in the moment. Like I'm right here, right now, fully grounded in who I am, fully trusting in who I am. And so as I speak to you guys about my experience with not feeling safe, and then desperately seeking safety, I hope to come back to you guys in part 2 and offer you more of, what does safety even means? What does it even look like? How does it translate into real life? And what those actions and decisions, and what does it look like when I say I want to be safe? What does it look like? And what about safety, or what in terms of safety is realistic in terms of living as a soul on this human experience, as a spiritual experience? So stay tuned for part 2 when I come back around, and I'll tell you guys what I discovered when I had said with feeling unsafe, that part of me that feels unsafe. And I want to come back and tell you guys what she's telling me and what she has told me. And then I look forward to stepping into what feeling safe means. Because if feeling safe is not taking risk, I don't think that's what that means. So looking forward to exploring that and sharing that with you guys. So I'm Fozia. And you guys are tuned into Fo's Journey Across the Bridge, where I am doing my healing work, as you can see, taking steps forward. I am doing the work to heal myself so that I could be the best version of me, so that I can have the most amazing experience as Fozia on this planet this time around. And so thank you for tuning in to the healing series, as I am going from my mind to my heart and centering in the core of who I know I am, and remembering who I know I am through the power of God and all that is created through God. Amen. Thank you. Stay tuned to the part 2. And if you guys are enjoying my videos, not even just my videos, if you're enjoying the tools that I'm offering you through my own process of doing my healing work, then I hope you subscribe, and I hope you like the video, and I hope that you click the notification bell so that the next time that I do post, you will be notified. What else? And share the video. Share with someone. Sharing something that may have helped you with someone else, and it may have helped them. You never know if you can change someone's life. So if I can at least inspire one person to begin their own healing, to go on the healing journey, to healing themselves, so that we can all make this world that we're sharing a better place, so that we can give the best versions of ourselves, not just for our own experience, but so that those that are in our life can experience the best version of themselves too, and the best version of us. So bye for now. Till next time. You are tuned into Fo's Journey Across the Bridge.